Top 18 Disturbing Creations by Guillermo del Toro, the Maestro of creature horror. Guillermo del Toro Gómez is a filmmaker, producer, screenwriter, and novelist from Mexico. He is best known for the fantasy films Pan's Labyrinth and The Shape of Water, both of which won Academy Awards for Best Director and Best Picture. If you ask most moviegoers who the current king of monster movies is, they'll probably reply Guillermo del Toro. No other director has embraced the aesthetics of classic monster films and effects in the same way that del Toro has, and no other director has imprinted his or her taste on the genre as he does. His designs are unique, his details are brilliant, and his passion for all things horrible is unfathomable. His animals have been the topic of art exhibitions and shows in addition to being identifiable to his quirky tastes. When it comes to this guy's collection of monsters, the expression, "so awful they may be a modern art masterpiece," has a literal meaning. When it comes to this individual, there's no shortage of the ghastly and bizarre. They may be scary, wicked, or mildly macabre, but you can't deny that they all have their own peculiar beauty. In this video, we bring to you 18 of del Toro's most famous monsters from a vast array of movies. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Trespasser, a kaiju. Pacific Rim, 2013. Pacific Rim can be considered Guillermo del Toro's love letter to the kaiju genre, and it resulted in multiple massive monsters that rival the king of kaijus, Godzilla. The biggest and baddest out of all of them was the Trespasser, which features a gigantic axe-like head and an almost impenetrable hide, and was thus dubbed Axehead. Trespasser's introduction is most likely a reference to The Wrath of Moon Thunder, a Spectre Man episode. Guillermo del Toro grew up watching numerous tokusatsu series, including Spectre Man. It was the first kaiju to strike humans after emerging from the breach. It launched an attack on San Francisco on August 10th of 2013. And over the course of 6 days, it destroyed 3 cities in a 35-mile-long path of destruction. Trespasser entered the city with a 7.1 earthquake, which was quickly followed by it rising from the water near the Golden Gate Bridge. It destroyed the bridge and everything on it before cutting a massive trail of destruction across San Francisco, Sacramento, Oakland, and other nearby cities. The US military's conventional weapons, aided by the Royal Air Force, failed to pierce the creature's cover. After a lot of human effort, it was finally nuked by the US military and the Royal Air Force of the United Kingdom. The Pan-Pacific Defense Corps was unable to ascertain its category class from its destroyed body since Trespasser's attack occurred before the creation of the Serizawa scale. Judas breed, Mimic, 1997. One of our list's scarier entries comes from one of del Toro's early films. Mimic's main creature is a species of huge cockroach-like insects in Manhattan that have evolved to mimic the likeness of humans, based on a short story by Donald A. Wollheim. While this film wasn't the most well-received, its Monsters Among Us atmosphere is powerful, and it drives the majority of its goosebumps element. They were developed as part of a successful effort in New York to eradicate disease-carrying cockroaches that were causing Strickler's disease in children. They were 6-legged animals with formidable pincers capable of ripping a human apart for consumption. Wings allowed them to travel around their domain, making them more threatening out in the open. They could wrap their wings over their bodies and reveal their human disguise, which consisted of huge coats worn by humans. The colony had just one male who would reproduce the species, so the bulk of the species were female. Males were also paler than females and lacked wings. The animals could detect blood traces, which would throw them into a feeding frenzy, but they were unable to distinguish prey that had been coated with their smell, mistaking such food for their own kind. Consider it a colossal, bizarre-faced cockroach roaming the streets of New York. If that isn't enough to make you itch, consider the terrible diseases they carry. Their ability to imitate humans, combining human and insect features, was far more terrifying than their native appearance. Del Toro's ability to dig into people's fears and dreams is evident in his early work. Pale Man. Pan's Labyrinth, 2006. The Pale Man is like a horrifying Goya painting come to life. Easily one of the scariest creatures on our list in terms of concept. The painting that served as inspiration is known as Saturn Devouring His Son. To Gnome, the ghost of a blind man whose eyes are positioned in the palms of his hands, was a real-life Japanese legendary creature who also influenced the creation of the Pale Man. One of Pan's Labyrinth's two iconic creatures, this child-eating nightmare is nothing short of horrible. We were definitely checking under the bed for him when we arrived home. What with his hideous teeth, eyes in his hands, and a horrific shriek. His body has the appearance of a sickly old man. The mouth and nostrils are visible, similar to those of a manta ray. He consumes children and fairies, and rather than in his face, his eyes can be placed in the sockets in his hands. The Pale Man's table is piled high with food and drink, but children are not allowed to eat because the creature will wake up and attack if they do. Despite being a slow runner, the beast is nevertheless a dangerous monster intent on devouring a child who enters his cave. The Pale Man is famine-made flesh and is a darker counterpart of Slenderman. He's always on the lookout for new victims who trespass in his hall. As he pursues Ophelia, his moment with her sends our hearts racing, and it causes us palpitations every time. He's a monster worthy of the term terrifying and suspenseful. Reapers, Blade 2, 2002. Get a load of these things from Blade 2 if you think vampires have to be beautiful and mysterious. These guys, like the vamps in Del Toro's Strain trilogy, take more than just a bite out of your average bloodsucker. The Reapers are not your normal vampires by any means, as they are biologically intended to be the better beast. A breed of genetically modified vampires is known as the Reaper. They differ from regular vampires in a number of ways, the most notable of which is that they feed on the blood of both vampires and humans. Reapers will drink human blood if it is required, but vampire blood has an addictive feel to them, and they will always choose it over human blood. The Reapers and the Reaper virus are immune to garlic and silver, and far hungrier than your average Nosferatu. They make for a fierce combat against the undead because they are far stronger and can withstand a barrage of attacks. The mandible-like mouths with deadly fangs and a strange tongue are their most distinguishing characteristic, and their fangs contain a neurotoxin which paralyzes their prey. They are pack animals, and with how terrifying they look when their jaws fully open up, you would definitely run if you saw them. The Reapers, who feed on both vampires and humans, are a difficult task for our favorite daywalker and a design masterpiece by Del Toro. Angel of Death, Hellboy 2, 2008. It certainly seems like the real, live Angel of Death to us, with wings, a dusty heart, and a raspy voice. This is without a doubt the most amazing personification of death we've ever seen, and it happens in Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. In terms of design, presence, and performance, there's a lot going on, and it's difficult to pick just one quality. The Angel's greatest distinguishing trait is that its eyes are located on its wings rather than on its skeleton face. The Angel of Death has been waiting for a dying Hellboy among the ruins of Beth Mora for a long time. Liz Sherman was seeking a way to remove the part of Prince Nuada's spear from Hellboy's chest, while the BPRD was looking for the Golden Army. While the Angel appears unconcerned with Hellboy's plight, it only saves his life once Liz chooses Hellboy to live, despite being informed that she will be the one who suffers the most when Hellboy fulfills his destiny. The Angel departs after removing the spear fragment and handing it over to the Goblin Blacksmith. Aside from Doug Jones' portrayal, the character's benign but frightening character is what keeps us on board. His tone isn't the ominous and dominating one associated with death. We can't say it's evil, but it's creepy. The universe's only truly neutral party, both lovely and terrifying at the same time, and it is brought to life by Guillermo del Toro's genius. The Jangly Man. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, 2019. In the short story, What Do You Come For?, the Jangly Man is the primary adversary from the book Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and the secondary antagonist in the 2019 film adaptation. Troy James portrays him, and Andrew Jackson provides the voice for this character. Except for his feet, which were shown peeking out from the fireplace in 1981, not much of him was shown. He's shown as a twisted creature with a chopped skull and detached body parts in 2019. The story of the Jangly Man is as follows. A lonely old woman who lived by herself wished for a companion, but as we all know, we should always be careful about what we wish for. One by one, long dangly body parts come out of the chimney to finally present a long and dangly jangly man in front of her. He started to dance around the room, which scared the old woman, and when she asked him why he had come, he said that he came for her. With his head coming down the chimney, the jangly man makes his appearance in the film. The Jangly Man unites and transforms into a humanoid, snapping a cop's neck and killing him. The Jangly Man then pursues Rahman, attempting to kill him. The Jangly Man, on the other hand, fails in his attempt to kill Rahman and is instead slain by Sarah as she sees her mistakes. He is truly a sight to behold, and not in the best way. Mr. Wink-Hellboy 2, 2008. Mr. Wink is a large cave troll and the secondary antagonist in Hellboy 2: The Golden Army. He was Prince Nuada's strongman and close confidant. He is a troll with an iron fist for a right arm that he can detach and hurl at opponents. It joins back to his arm by creeping back to its owner. He wears a metal armor plate that is impenetrable to even Hellboy's fist. Mr. Wink is a physical force to be reckoned with, capable of flinging human-sized opponents several dozen feet. William in Underworld Evolution was played by Brian Steele, who also played Samuel in the 2004 Hellboy film. Mr. Wink first appears beneath the Manhattan Bridge, where Prince Nuada is seen practicing martial skills with his spear. Soon after, they carry out a conspiracy to rob an auction house of one of the 3 pieces of the crown of Bethmora, which, when reassembled, will bring an army of clockwork soldiers known as the Golden Army under the authority of the wearer, assuming he is of royal descent. However, Mr. Wink is killed in a battle against Hellboy, which incurs Prince Nuada's wrath, who then sends another creature to attack Hellboy, but Hellboy triumphs once more. While Mr. Wink doesn't say much, you definitely feel his presence because of the strong creative work that has gone into his character development. The Master, The Strain, 2014. The Master is a Strigoi that serves as the major antagonist in both the book series and the television adaptation of The Strain. He is the youngest of the 7 original Ancients, and he's also the brains behind the Strain virus that swept through New York. By the time he arrived in New York, he was living inside the body of Józef Sardu, a 19th century Polish aristocrat suffering from gigantism, which explains his terrifying stature and height. Apart from his height, he has the same characteristics as lesser Strigoi, from the 6-foot-long device used to transmit the disease to the lack of a nose, sharp-clawed fingers, and shallow, entirely hairless skin. Everything about the disease is bizarre. Along with the Strigoi, the Master has vampire-like abilities such as superhuman strength, a strong aversion to the sun, and the ability to drink human blood. The creature is nothing like your average blood-sucking beast and is actually quite terrifying to look at. The design of the face makes it look almost like the skull is protruding through the skin, and the sharp pointy ears add to the fantastical element. The shape of the head is also almost non-human. What makes this creature scary is how human it looks while also looking like a Strigoi at the same time. The creature is humanoid in appearance and definitely one to watch out for because his end goal is to take over the world and rule it with his Strigoi army. Knifehead, Kaiju, Pacific Rim, 2013. Knifehead is a Category 3 Kaiju from the movie Pacific Rim. Knifehead is a massive Kaiju with a lot of muscle. Its most distinguishing feature is a long, broad, sharp-ended nose that could easily pierce a Jaeger's armor. When it resurfaces from the water, it has a blowhole in the center of its head that forcefully expels air. Its back is covered in huge shell-like armor, while the rest of its body resembles that of a goblin shark. Knifehead has 2 big, dominating arms projecting from its midsection and 2 smaller secondary arms. It has 3 clawed digits on each of its huge arms, with the middle digit being substantially larger. It has a tail as well. The rest of its body is dark gray with bright yellow stripes running across it. However, its eyes and the inside of its mouth glow blue. Knifehead's primary forearm bones are separated by a fleshless gap, giving the appearance of two merged arms with 3-digited claws. Knifehead is also the world's largest Category 3 kaiju. This is another massive kaiju and an amazing design from the kaiju-filled movie Pacific Rim. Knifehead also emerges from the breach like Trespasser and goes on to cause absolute chaos until it is finally taken down by a spectacular battle by Gypsy Danger. Knifehead's battle with Gypsy Danger is a watershed moment in the kaiju war. The kaiju had always been unthinking brutes, easily beaten by the Ranger's wits, armament, and tactics in past engagements. Knifehead is the first kaiju to show signs of intelligence and planned deception. Pale Lady, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, 2019. Pale Lady, also known as the Pale Lady or the Woman, is one of the characters in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark's short horror story, The Dream. The Pale Lady is presented as a fat woman with long black hair and black eyes, and her complexion is pale in hue as her name suggests. She has a two-dimensional, horrible visage that is enough to make a grown man uncomfortable and seems more like a horror painting than she resembles anything living. This is a ghost or spirit or entity of some sort. The Pale Lady is featured as a minor enemy in the 2019 film, despite being a hero in the book series. Pale Lady appears in the dream of the protagonist, an artist called Lucy, when she dreams about a room and tells her to flee because there was evil in that place. Upon waking, she doesn't think much of it, but as she goes out house hunting, she chances upon a lodging that was exactly the same as the one she had seen in her dream. And in place of the chubby, motherly landlady who had just brought her to the room, she came face to face with the Pale Lady. In that moment, she was terrified and she fled, never to return. The Pale Lady could very well have been helping her avoid getting entangled with a great evil, or she was the evil entity herself. That remains open to interpretation.
Y habéis elegido bien, Alteza.
Faun, Pan's Labyrinth, 2006. Pan from Pan's Labyrinth is one of Del Toro's most famous monsters. Doug Jones also wore the horns for this beast, as well as the stilts to heighten his stature for the part. The Faun's face is lovely, but yet scary and decaying. His body shows that he has been sleeping for millennia, waiting for the proper princess to appear. In his design, he is both terrifying and alluring. Woodcuts and tattoos are both influenced by the etching on his body. Pan is both alive and inextricably linked to the earth. Although he is a lovely nature spirit, he has an occult and ancient quality to him, as do many Del Toro creatures, as well as a peculiar uncertainty concerning his genuine goals. His horns and sections of his body resemble gnarled branches, and his organic characteristics are more goat than humanoid, but everything blends together so beautifully. He's a storybook monster mingling with mortals, but he appears to be at ease in both worlds. However, I can say with full confidence that it is Faun's eyes that will make you the most uncomfortable. His eyes are milky white and unnerving to look at, as it almost blends with the rest of his appearance. When he first meets Ophelia, he looks to be an elderly Faun, but as the film proceeds, he matures backwards, eventually resembling his younger self near the end. This is definitely one of Guillermo del Toro's best and most beautiful character designs. Karl Ruprecht Kronen, Hellboy, 2004. Nazi, zombie, steampunk, cyborg are four words that encapsulate this beast. Karl Ruprecht Kronen, the famed assassin, has a lot going on in terms of design and delivery. This guy is like something Clive Barker would dream up, and we really love it. He is easily one of the greatest and most cosplayed villains in Hellboy. Kronen is a scientist turned assassin who uses a combination of black magic and wicked technologies to bring him to life. You've got yourself a very terrifying adversary when you combine his cryptic and striking design with his skill for swordplay. We've got to award Kronen a spot on our list because his delivery is easily more spectacular than Rasputin's. Kronen was a fairly ordinary Nazi SS scientist in the comics, with the exception that he constantly donned a gas mask and protective bodysuit, probably due to severe obsessive-compulsive disorder and a phobia of microorganisms. For the 2004 film adaptation, director Guillermo del Toro devised a dramatically enlarged biography of the character. Carl serves as the film's secondary antagonist. Ladislav Baran portrays him in the film. Cronin does not feel pain, most likely as a result of Rasputin's black magic and his own significant modifications. He also appeared to have no basic demands, being able to go without food, water, air, or sleep, and even turning off his body. Cronin also has a clockwork heart and a mechanical left hand, which he regularly spins up before fight. He is proven to have a lethal aim, as well as being a great swordsman and possessing amazing physical attributes. Homunculus. Don't be afraid of the dark. 2010. The homunculi are a demonic race of little demons from the netherworld. These monsters are scrawny and terrible in appearance, and they even lurk in the dark and inhabit the house that Emerson Blackwood formerly owned. They can only talk in whispers, are scared of bright lights, and have a strong desire for human teeth, which seems to be a theme with Del Toro. They're based on the nameless monsters from the 1973 television movie and also have fur on their backs, with their bodies being mainly dark brown and black. They also have the ability to turn humans into one of them. In the short film, they serve as the main villains who trick humans and drag them into the netherworld. Lord Emerson Blackwood's son was kidnapped by the homunculi over 200 years ago in Providence County, Rhode Island of the 19th century, and he pleaded for his return by murdering a maid in an attempt to offer her in exchange, only to be dragged into their lair. This same pattern started up again when a new family moved into the house, long after the first incident. The Hearst family was also plagued by whispers, which led to Kim, Hearst's girlfriend, being kidnapped and taken away by the homunculi, although they had actually targeted Hearst's daughter, Little Sally. These creatures definitely make you wonder what exactly happens in your house once you switch off the lights and go to bed for the night. Leatherback. Kaiju. Pacific Rim, 2013. Leatherback is the third kaiju in our list of Del Toro's creations. Leatherback is truly a sight to behold. Leatherback is a naturally hostile species with a gorilla-like appearance. The term leatherback is a pun on the silverback, the moniker given to adult male gorillas. In the way it moves on its knuckles and charges at its adversaries, the leatherback's body language is comparable to that of a gorilla. When hurt, it adopts hit-and-run tactics to destroy adversaries. It will flee the battle and hide until the enemy's attention is drawn away from it. Leatherback attacks from behind, using its opponent's weight to its advantage. The strong protrusions that cover Leatherback's fists are like maces, capable of tearing through armor. Its thick skin allows it to resist significant injury without breaking down. Bony armor on the shoulders, as well as a crest-like plate that covers the top of its skull, add to this. On the back of its head, it has 14 bioluminescent tendrils that quiver as a sign of irritation. Its strength comes from its fury, which manifests itself most visibly when it's attacked. It moves like a gorilla, walking on the knuckles of its massive shovel-like hands, or leaping enormous distances. Leatherbacks have 6 eyes that are visible. The kaiju's most lethal feature is a massive 4-lobed organ on its back that can charge and generate an electromagnetic pulse that destroys all electronics in a large region, posing a serious threat to digitized Jaegers. In Pacific Rim, Leatherback is the only kaiju who uses makeshift weaponry. Leatherback shares several characteristics with Samil, a demon from Del Toro's Hellboy. Behemoth, from Hellboy 2004. The Behemoth is the main enemy in the 2004 film Hellboy, based on the same named comic book series. Behemoth is one of the 369 Ogdru Jihad spawns created just for the film series, making it the film's only Ogdru Hem. It has a gourd-shaped, worm-like body with an indeterminate number of tentacles on each point, with the lower tentacles being much larger than those on the head. Behemoth's underbelly was likewise covered in a slew of black eyeballs. However, the higher point's tentacled head conceals a retractable head with 2 pairs of eyes and a lengthy tentacle-like tongue. Sadhu Hem from the comics was most likely the inspiration for the Behemoth. In the film's finale, when Rasputin confesses that he had the Behemoth within his body the entire time, the Behemoth moved in to deal with Hellboy. Agent John Myers, and the unconscious Elizabeth Sherman. It arises from Rasputin's knife wound and expands to enormous proportions, crushing Rasputin and Ilsa von Hauptstein as punishment for their failure to manipulate Hellboy to free its parents, the Ogdru Jihad. Hellboy initially has trouble grappling with Behemoth, but eventually defeats it by forcing himself to be devoured and detonating a belt of grenades, causing it to explode from the inside. It was truly a force to be reckoned with, and as far as the tentacled monsters go, this is one of the best that we have come across in the entire horror genre. Otachi Kaiju, Pacific Rim, 2013. The Otachi is the last kaiju on this list, and it is a Category 4 kaiju. Otachi, like Leatherback, is one of the largest and heaviest Category 4 kaiju to hit the ground. In terms of length, she is greater than other kaiju types, but not in terms of mass. Instead of standing erect like some other kaiju, Otachi appears to walk on all fours. Her body is made up of 2 short legs and 4-digit hand wings that she uses to fly. For protection, she keeps her wings inside her forearms. Even when her legs are hauling something as heavy as a Jaeger, Otachi can fly to the edge of space. She possesses a long tail with bony plates running down her spine, and 3 prehensile pincers at the end, which can be used as a weapon against the Jaegers. Otachi's face is characterized by a long, plated and bridged neck, as well as a massive, muscular jaw and a trademark crest between her forehead and snout. Her true eyes are hidden beneath the side of the head crest. The front of the crest is curled with a strong, powerful spike extending from the back for eye protection. To spit out of the pouch, the bottom jaw can break in half. Her tongue features a blooming bioluminescent structure that she seems to employ as a gripping mechanism or a detecting organ. She also possesses a pouch under her neck that can be engorged and vomit out a corrosive blue acid which is more than capable of destroying the Jaegers. Otachi is cunning, and her pain tolerance appears to be higher than that of other kaiju. Otachi, for example, continued to fly into the atmosphere even after losing her tail. Tooth Fairy, Hellboy 2004. These horrible little monsters are from Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, and they're yet another rendition of a scary tooth fairy. Take a page from the Imp's playbook from Don't Be Afraid of the Dark and combine their attributes with the insect-like qualities of the ones in Pan's Labyrinth, and you've got these fellas. These pests are more than your typical pest, with their organic wing shape, spidery legs, and calcium hunger. These creepy, slightly cute terrors are true man-eaters that, according to Abe Sapien, will leave nothing but their droppings behind. We had to include them on the list since there's something about their design that screams Del Toro. Tooth fairies aren't particularly dangerous on their own. Unfortunately, they travel in swarms. They can easily overpower most organisms, depending on the size of the swarm. The tooth fairies are native to the Black Forest and feed mostly on calcium found in flesh, bones, organs, and other tissues, with a preference for teeth due to higher calcium concentration. When attacking living prey, they begin by eating the victim's teeth, but soon consume the entire body until all that is left is the fairy's own feces. Despite their violent nature, they are intelligent and capable of communicating intelligently with one another in their own language. Their colossal teeth live true to their moniker, exposing themselves to be a threat, despite their unassuming appearance and little stature. Even with such a short amount of screen time, the Tooth Fairies were able to make their presence felt, and credit must be given to the creature design. Forest Elemental from Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, 2008. The last elemental, also known as the Giver of Life and the Destroyer, is a forest god and an elemental creature of Earth. It was supposed to be the last of its type before Hellboy shot it to death. To date, the creature has only made 2 appearances in its film Hellboy 2: The Golden Army and its novelization. Before the events of the film, little is known about the creature. It is hinted that there were once many more such animals, but they all died out as a result of humanity's expansion on Earth, or during the Human Magical Creature War. Depending on its age, the creature took one of 2 shapes. Its baby form was a green seed, or bean as Hellboy described it. The adult form was a towering humanoid with 5 tentacle-like limbs, a vine-covered leaf torso, and a flower-like head. standing roughly 15 meters tall. The latter was made up of a number of leaves that covered a blazing energy ganglion that served as both the creature's brain and a bud that only flowered into a flower after it died. The organism had previously shown evidence of intelligence in its seed form, interpreting speech and even moving on its own. It also has the potential to germinate and grow quickly. The creature exhibited great physical strength in its adult form, and was capable of latching onto surfaces, but it's unclear whether this ability was a side consequence of injury or if the elemental had always had it but couldn't manage it. The creature's blood was extremely effective at growing simple plant life like grass and small flowers, while its fully blossomed energy ganglion, its head, after death, could create floating plant seeds. It could also speak for itself as a seed, speaking gibberish, and as an adult, growling and growing. Del Toro has developed some of the most terrifying and inventive monster designs in movie history during his eclectic directorial career. Del Toro has a knack for creating one-of-a-kind movie creatures. He creates an art form out of the way he designs and forms these otherwise terrifying and often unsettling entities. A terrifying monster can be created by any filmmaker of any level of talent, but only Del Toro can create a beautifully horrifying creature. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.